Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the podcast. This is our last in the series on business planning. I hope you found it super helpful. Just as a recap, we really started with what are the values for you, your company, your team. That's how you're going to make decisions. Who is it that you're really serving? And then what is the vision? What do you want it to look like? Who are you serving? How are you serving them? All of those things put together. And then translating that vision into what we call a work breakdown structure. And that's just basically putting the work into individual silos. And then within each silo, you're breaking it down into bite-sized chunks that are 8 hours-ish in duration. And then once you've got that done, you're going to break those into individual tasks that you can basically write on a Post-it note, and then sequencing those tasks along the continuum of a year, and then just focusing on 90 days at a time. And today we're really going to be talking about focusing on tracking those 90-day increments, because if you don't track it, it's just going to go in a drawer, people are going to ignore it, and then a year from now or whatever it is, you're going to go, well, how come we didn't get what we wanted done? How come we're still in the same place we were? Well, it's because you didn't track it. So let's get into that. Really this is about accountability. And true accountability is when you allow for people to determine the how, but you make sure that they understand what's expected of them and that they can deliver on that they have the capability to do so. And I had a brilliant hairdresser years ago who said that resentment is unspoken expectations that are never communicated and therefore never met. And that is the antithesis of what we want in our company culture. We want people to know what's expected. That's why we're connecting the dots from what they do each day to the vision. And we want to know what we expect from those behaviors. What is the result that we're going to get? So does the result match the intention? Brene Brown talks about a concept called paint the shed. So if the task is paint the shed, she's like, okay, paint the shed. Tell me what it looks like when it's done. What color is it? Do we do the shutters? Are we doing the shingles? Are we doing the door? Do we do the foundation? Yes or no, what color, what's the hex code, by when, so that everybody's on the same page in terms of the expectation. And then we also want to make sure that for any accountability reasons, are there dependencies? Are people depending on you in order to get their work done? Are you dependent on other people in order to get your work done? All of that is really important to make sure that we capture and reveal in the tracking process. So when it comes down to tracking, we really want to track what was the objective, what was the intended outcome, what are the behaviors that you're going to complete to achieve that intended outcome. So we're talking about verbs here. So some examples might be that you're going to eat 500 less calories. You're going to make 10 cold calls. You're going to drive 300 miles. Last episode, we were talking about driving the distance from Central Oregon to Dallas and how many miles that is. And what if you divided that into 4? And if you took that quarter of the journey and you broke it down into 12 weeks, how many miles is that per day? And what's really important about all this is that you're able to measure it. So, as I said, everything was numbers before. 500 calories, 10 cold calls, 300 miles. Dates are acceptable measures. So be sure you understand that. I'm going to do this by June 1st. I'm going to complete this by September 1st, all of that. All of you are probably really familiar with SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. Couple of those words, sometimes people use different words for. We've got a whole podcast on that. We'll link that in the show notes below. But the other thing to consider is also hard goals. And I think it's a Harvard Business Review talking about, is it heartfelt? Is this important to you? Is it difficult to achieve? Sometimes those things can be more compelling than just the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. So be sure that you understand that piece too. But if you're the gatekeeper of all of this process, if you're the one that's managing the business planning process, you need to make sure for each assignment that everybody has a measure, because otherwise, we're just treading water. So the team, again, part of the accountability piece is that the team needs confidence. They need to know, I'm not wasting my time. My behavior will drive us to the goal, the aspiration. If you've ever read that book, The Boys in the Boat, one of the things that they're talking about is every action that they analyze, will it make it go faster? If we do this, and if it didn't make the boat go faster, then they just were like, this is irrelevant. So that's one of the things we want to think about, is that the behaviors that people are putting forth, the effort that they're putting forth, actually drives us to the goal. As we continue, do the measures suggest we need more behaviors? So what we planned was insufficient, or didn't get us quite there, or more frequent? So for example, if you're tracking eating less, 500 calories less a day, but the scale's not moving, does it need to be more than that? Or do you need to be more habitual about tracking? Or do you need a different technique to make sure that you're getting the progress you needed? Now, all the time, unless you are like a seer, your actions will be incomplete because you haven't anticipated everything that could happen. And that's okay. That's just needs course correction. We call that a corrective action plan. And it's, what is the root cause for the failure and what corrects it? So if we find that we still haven't lost weight, or we haven't made 10 calls, what's behind that, and how do we need to modify the behavior to get a better result? It's not a point of shame. It's just like, it's a hypothesis. I tested it. It didn't work. That's okay. But catch it early. Okay. So when you're reviewing the tasks themselves, I suggest a weekly meeting, 1-minute review per meeting. If Joe has 10 cold calls, he says, I did 12 cold calls last week, and 9 of them were voicemail, but 1 of them was a sale. Okay. That's that quick. We want it to go da, 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 da. We want to see everybody's taking action. Nobody's letting things slip. As the results become more evident, like if we had a hypothesis that we would have a 3% conversion rate and it's only 1%, do we need to up the number of cold calls? So we want to look at that. In general, this Monday meeting should take an hour, maybe even less. You might want to be able to do it by Slack. I'm not sure. I think it's a good idea to have the face-to-face accountability. And then when it comes to the quarterly meeting, where you're actually fully blown going through all the results, I would say that could take a half day to a full day, depending on how much you've got on your plate. And then the key question on that is, do we need to amend the future 90-day plans? Do we need some Post-it notes to move from this quarter to next quarter? Do we need additional Post-it notes that we didn't have on the plan? That's really what we're talking about in terms of the results there. And, of course, don't forget to celebrate. We got a podcast on that, too, so we'll put that in the show notes. If this has been helpful to you, this whole business planning series, know that we can facilitate this. It really helps to have someone who doesn't have skin in the game, but can observe the dynamics of the team and really make it happen. So by all means, I would have a facilitator help you get started with this process. get the values down, get the vision down, really talk about who you're going to serve, all of that, and get it out there so that your team really feels accountable to the process. Don't forget, I'm going to be at SHRM in a few days here, speaking in Las Vegas, and then I'll be at Converge in August, and I would love to meet you. If you're going to be there, drop a note, and we can see if we can meet up. Until then, take good care.
Thank you for listening to Playbook for Performance. To learn more about Shauna Corden, her consulting programs and tools, please visit her website at shaunacorden.com and follow us on social media at Shauna Corden.